This is my grandma's chicken noodles recipe that I have held on to for the last 25 years in my recipe binder, but actually this is the first time I've ever made them. Um, I have a sick family member, and I thought that I would make some homemade chicken noodle soup since I had roasted a chicken previously in the week and made broth with the bones. And I thought, hey, this is a good time to experiment with something new and try making homemade chicken noodles for the soup. And I had remembered that I had this recipe in there, and I thought that that would be a neat way to remember my grandma. She was raised during the Great Depression. In fact, dirt floor poor was literally her life growing up, and she taught me quite a bit about homesteading, lifestyle, canning, making food from scratch. We had cows and chickens and had milk and made butter, and I have some really fond memories of my grandma doing things on the homestead with her. Unfortunately, she did pass when I was a teenager, when I could have retained some more information from her and learned more skills. I ended up learning on my own. And so that's why I create these videos, because I feel like sometimes it's good to see people try new things and fail too. And in particular, during this video, there's a couple failures that I will mention. The first was when I started to saute the onions and garlic. I had the pan on too hot and it browned the butter. However, it didn't affect the taste of the soup. It was delicious. My second failure was making these noodles. I should have let the dough rest for maybe a half an hour, because as I went through making them, it was really hard at first to try to roll these out thin enough. And by the end, it was getting easier and easier. I think the gluten relaxes a little bit after a certain amount of time. And so, as you can see, I'm really struggling to get these rolled out thin enough. And I actually do have a pasta roller, but I wanted to, do it like my grandma did, and she always did it by hand. So this really, truly makes such a hearty, amazing chicken noodle soup when you make your own egg noodles. This meal was truly from scratch. Everything from the bone broth that I had made earlier in the week, and the chicken was leftover shredded chicken from the roasted chicken that I made earlier in the week. And I also threw in, I had some leftover roasted carrots and potatoes, and I just tossed that in the soup. It actually was really, really good, and I highly recommend making chicken noodle soup from scratch, but most importantly is adding in the egg noodles. There's nothing particular about her recipe. It's just the standard flour, eggs, into a dough ball. Nothing special about it, but it just felt nostalgic for me, and I felt like I just wanted to share a little bit about the backstory of my grandma and where she came from. I think that sometimes we forget about the people in our lives and who've made impacts, and so this is a tribute to my grandma Millie.